Hi, this is Mary Lou Jen, and you're watching my Lightroom Photo Editing series. The purpose of this series is not to go in depth into Lightroom, but for me to show you an overview of how I use Lightroom for editing. In this episode, I'll edit a photo that was submitted by Andrea. Thanks for the picture, Andrea, it's great. This picture, straight off the camera, looks fantastic, and really, I could be happy with this picture and not need to edit it at all. But I can also just make a few edits that make it just that little bit better. So I'm going to do that now. The first thing that I'm going to do is I see this bright sky, and I'll check this on pretty much any image, but I'm worried about clipped highlights. So what I want to do is turn on my clipped highlight indicator, and I can do that one of two ways. I can press the J key, which turns on the indicator, or I can, up here, click this triangle. So it's something you can click to turn on and then click to turn off. And that will help you avoid clipped highlights. And what clipped highlights do is when you print the image, the clipped highlights will be white, so they're pure white. That means that no ink will be used to create that part of the image. So what you'll see is, and you can probably look at some old photos if you have blown highlights or clipped highlights, you can look at it and turn it at an angle to the light, and you'll see the ink stop and then the paper shows up. So the paper will either be glossier than your ink or less glossy than your ink, depending on what type of medium you printed on. So you want to try and avoid clipped highlights. In this case, there are clipped highlights, and I can easily reduce that. This image was shot in RAW, so it's very easy to adjust. The benefit of shooting RAW is that it saves that data. It doesn't toss out this color information just because it's blown. So I can just go to the highlight slider and reduce the clipped highlight until I see no more red. Here I see a little bit, so I'll just keep going, and I end up at about minus 51. If you look at the before and after, there is some darkening of the skin, but not a lot, and we'll correct that now. So the next thing actually that I want to do is to brighten the skin a little bit, and I do that on the HSL panel. Here, under luminance, I'm going to increase the orange a little bit and increase the yellow a little bit, and that will just brighten the skin. So when you increase luminance, it's brightening that color. I'm going to exaggerate the change, and you can see it brighten the orange way too much. I'm going to leave it at about 14. And then the same with the yellow, I'm going to leave that at about 14 as well. So the next thing I want to do here is to brighten him up a little bit against the background. And I'll do that using the adjustment brush. And I'll set it to about half a stop. So I don't want it to be I don't want him to just really be dramatically brighter, but I do want to lighten him up against the background just a little bit, as I said already, so that he stands out and some attention is drawn away from the background and towards him. And that's really, I'm going to close the adjustment brush, but that's really how I would edit the picture. I like what that looks like. I wouldn't really do more than that. I like his little face. I don't mind that it's got, you know, a little bit of dirt there and some spots on his shirt. That's just part of toddlerhood to me, and I think it just screams that age. But you could, and I'll show you how to clean it up. It's very easy. Use the spot removal tool. I have it on heal, and you can adjust the size by scrolling up and down with your mouse. I'm going to make it as small as I can and still fit these spots. And I'm just going to click on them. And Lightroom does a really good job, Lightroom 5 especially, of guessing where to pull from to heal this section, effectively removing those spots. Here it's a little trickier. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more actually, clicking that 2 to 1 on the navigator. I can clean up this spot and maybe this one. Again, I wouldn't spend a lot of time editing. I'd rather enjoy my pictures and not spend so much time editing them. However, if I was going to print this or use it for a project like an album, the last thing that I might do is crop it so that this distraction on the left is removed. So in that case, I'll crop it to 8 by 10, and I'll go to cropping by pressing the R key, which is the shortcut, or clicking this over here. And I can select the aspect ratio I want from this drop down. I'm going to pick the 4 by 5 or 8 by 10 option. And then I'll slide this over to eliminate that distraction in the background. And then I might crop a little bit more just to remove the entire chair. And then even more to bring the subject into the rule of thirds. And now I have some balance here on each side. It's the playground is cropped into, so it's kind of balanced. Now this is the strongest line is between the pavement and the grass, so I'm glad that that's straight. I'm going to try straightening it by this line, which has become stronger in my crop, to see what that does. And I prefer that this line be straight, even if the playground is not. So that is how I would crop it if I were to print it or use it in an album. I like where that is. That's my edit. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Thank you so much for watching.